we're going to look at how to make an animation in SVG happen when you click on something. If you've already worked a little bit with the animate element in SVG and the way to create hyperlinks with SVG, then this should be pretty easy. If you're not as familiar with those, you might need to slow down and try out some of the code. Now, I am doing all of this in SVG only. You can find other resources, but most of them talk about mixing CSS and JavaScript with SVG, which is fine, and that is generally the recommended way of doing it now, but you don't necessarily have to do it that way. So let's look at it through just SVG alone. So I've got some different elements here, and right in the middle I've got a text element that says click me, and this is what I'm going to actually have be the trigger for all the animations that are going to happen on this. I'm going to have several happen in response to this. So I'm going to start just with the click me itself, and then we can expand it to other things. So what I need to happen is I need to add in an animate tag, right? So I've got this here, and inside of this same element still, kind of in here with the text, which gets a little weird, but it is what it is. I can add an animate, and I need the attribute type, which is XML, and I need the attribute name, which I'm going to use, I guess, fill. It didn't actually put a fill in there, I guess because I had used the default color. And we need a from, which is that default color, and we need a to, which I can make it go to white, because that's kind of what I want to happen. And then we need a duration, right? So maybe like 2 seconds, and that's pretty much all I need actually. And there we go, we can see it's happening, right? Or we can see it happened once. But what if I want it to happen when I click on something, right? So we can do that. The way that we make something clickable basically in SVG is through the anchor elements. So I need to add in an anchor element, or the method that we use to create hyperlinks. So in front of this text element, or above this text element, I'm going to open a new tag, and the actual element itself is just A. It's just an A element, short for anchor. And so A space, and then we do xlink, colon href, and then inside of here, the value of this attribute is going to be just some sort of name. You can call it whatever you want. Call it go or something, or start, or whatever. And we want this link to wrap around this text element, right? So it needs to be after this text element is closed, so down here. We can actually tidy that up a little bit. We can close it like that. That works. Now, it's happening anyway. Even though we made that xlink in there, it's still happening, but that's because we haven't actually tied the two together. So to make this happen when it's clicked on, we need to add in a begin. And this begin, it's not going to be like mouse over or mouse out like we've done previously. Instead, it's going to be tied to that. So it's going to be go.begin. Now if I click on it, nothing happens yet. I need one more thing in here. I need an ID. So the ID that I use needs to match the same word that I chose for both of these. So this word needs to match all three. So if I put ID in here, and I call this go, now when I click, it goes. It went. Now it came back, and maybe I don't want it to come back, and that's fine. If I don't want it to come back, I can actually add in one more value. We're going to call it fill. Well, it is called fill. And the value is freeze. And now that will make it so it actually stays gone, or stays in that final state after the duration finishes. Now I can tie this same event, that same clicking event, to other things on here as well. So I'm actually just going to grab this animate element that I've created, and I'm going to actually start just putting it into my other elements here. So I can go ahead and close this circle out with a closing tag and copy and paste that animate tag in there. And for the most part, everything looks pretty good. The ID won't be go anymore, but we still want the begin, go.begin, so that way it ties it to this. And instead of black to white, it is currently white, and I want it to go to black. And let's see if that works. There we go. It worked. And I can basically just copy this animate element into all of the rest. I want all of them to shift from white to black. That was sort of my intent with this. Now you could add in other things for yours. I mean, it's up to you what you want to change for each object. But I thought I would just keep it rather simple. So I'll just keep pasting them in. Close that one out. And then the path here, which paths are weird, but it's okay. What is this path? Fill. Well, it doesn't have a fill, so I guess it doesn't matter. Actually, I know what that is. This probably is related to creating this text. Illustrator does some weird things with text sometimes. So we've got the path there, and we've got the animate element, and we can close this path, and there we go. And now let's see if it works. I've tied all of these elements, which you can't currently see because they're white on a white background, to change their color from white to black when I click on this. And they're all tied through there with this begin equals go.begin. And that works, but I did have to do that very first one at the start, actually have an ID of go. Without this, it won't work. So if I delete that, even though I have all these others tied to it, nothing happens. Put it back in there, and now I click on it, and everything should do what I asked it to do. There we go. So on-click events with just SVG. No CSS, no JavaScript, no HTML. Now if we minimize it, we can see there's an issue, right? So it doesn't look happy. If I open this with Safari, yeah, we can see not good, right? So if I open this back up, we can do two things. I'm just going to open it up in text edit because I'm not going to really do editing, so to speak. I'm just going to copy and paste it in an HTML shell, and that should work because it's a little less strict when it's contained in an HTML file. So just HTML, body, and I can close both of those, and then I can grab the code and paste it in, and this should be happy. What was I calling it? Linking, okay. Linking.html. And if we try it, let's see if it works. Okay, it works. If you don't want to embed it in an HTML file, there is something we can do about that too. So basically, we have to add something into the opening SVG element here, this very start, the root of it. We already have an XML namespace, but we need to add something to that. So we're going to add one more XML namespace in there. And it's actually, it kind of is already guessing what we want, or at least it's guessing it for me. We want an Xlink one. And what we want to put in there is, once again, it's guessing correctly, that. So XMLNS colon Xlink equals, and then this URL, http://www.w3.org/1999/Xlink. And that should get it to behave. So if I save it and I minimize this, there we go. Now it looks happy. And if I open with Safari, there we go. So, happy file.